Dr. Mara D. Angelo sat at her desk in the dimly lit lab of the Intergalactic Research Facility, her fingers dancing over the holographic keys, navigating the complex alien data. The facility, nestled deep within the mountains of a remote region on Earth, was one of the few places where humanity could study alien technology and phenomena without outside interference. The building was silent, save for the soft hum of machinery and the occasional beep from her console. Despite the peace around her, Mara's mind was far from calm. She was a xenobiologist, one of the leading experts in alien life and technology, and yet she couldn't shake the nagging skepticism in her mind. The stories she heard about humanity's resilience to the deadly energy pulses that had wiped out entire species were, in her eyes, just that, stories. Humanity, fragile and vulnerable, like any other species, could hardly be immune to such a destructive force. Her task at the facility, however, was simple: investigate the phenomenon. A series of strange, powerful energy pulses, originating from deep space, had been destroying entire civilizations on the outskirts of the galaxy. Planets turned to ash. Alien species with advanced technologies were wiped out in mere moments. But Earth's people, inexplicably, seemed to survive. She hadn't believed it at first, but there had been enough recorded instances now for the Galactic Federation to take notice. The Federation, a loose coalition of various alien species, had begun to approach Earth with renewed interest, questioning why humans were the only known species able to withstand these lethal bursts of energy. Could it be a fluke? A glitch in the system of life itself? Mara didn't know, but she was determined to find out. Her primary mission was straightforward: to uncover the secret behind humanity's immunity to these energy pulses. If she could figure out why humans were different, perhaps they could weaponize it. There was, after all, no shortage of intergalactic threats that could be countered with this strange gift. Or perhaps, she thought with a shiver, humanity might be the galaxy's unlikeliest savior. As Mara reviewed the latest data, her eyes were drawn to a set of unusual readings. The pulse was an anomaly. Its frequency was inconsistent, erratic even, as if it were somehow targeting specific species. Every time the pulse struck, the results were catastrophic for most life forms, but humans appeared to adapt in ways that defied biological logic. She focused on the readings again, replaying them from different angles. Something was off. There were hints of ancient technology embedded within the patterns, something that didn't make sense. As she zoomed in on the data, she noticed a series of hidden symbols within the frequency's symbols that were not of human origin. They were unfamiliar, yet strangely familiar in a way that tugged at the back of her mind. Her curiosity piqued. Mara requested access to a more secure archive. It was a risky move, but she needed to know more. With a few deft keystrokes, she bypassed the usual security protocols and gained access to a deep archive buried beneath the facility, a section reserved for classified and potentially dangerous materials. As the files opened before her, she felt a chill run down her spine. These were not records of standard human-alien interactions. No, these files were different. The first file she opened was titled Genesis Protocol. It was a detailed account of an ancient, now extinct alien species whose name had been erased from galactic records. They had left behind only traces of their technology, which, through an accident or perhaps design, had been integrated into the very core of humanity's DNA. Mara's pulse quickened. The file explained that these ancient beings had once seen humanity as an experiment. The purpose of this experiment was not simply survival, but adaptation to a specific kind of energy and energy weapon designed to wipe out entire species in one swift pulse. And humans, it seemed, were the only species capable of surviving it. The aliens had engineered humanity to withstand the pulse, not by accident, but as a deliberate act. But for what purpose? Mara's thoughts raced. Was it possible? Had humanity been created as part of a larger plan? It didn't make sense. No one had ever spoken of such a thing, and the Federation's records made no mention of these ancient beings. She dug deeper into the files, her mind spinning with the implications. The data revealed that this Genesis protocol had been hidden away, likely because the knowledge of its existence could cause a political disaster. The Federation could not afford to let humanity know the truth, let alone the fact that humanity had been engineered as a weapon for an ancient, now vanished species. But the deeper Mara delved, the more questions arose. Why hadn't humanity been wiped out like the other species? Why had the alien species vanished before they could finish their plan? And, most pressing of all, was humanity truly ready to face the consequences of this knowledge? Was it better for them to remain in the dark, or would they be stronger knowing their true origins? With her heart pounding, Mara sent a secure transmission to her superiors, requesting permission to investigate the origins of the Genesis Protocol. But even as she hit send, she knew that this discovery would change everything. The questions had only just begun, and the answers could be more dangerous than she had ever imagined. One thing was certain: humanity's role in the galaxy was far more complicated than she had ever believed. And she, Dr. Mara D'Angelo, would be the one to uncover the truth, no matter where it led. Dr. Mara D'Angelo sat alone in her lab, her mind reeling from the information she had uncovered. The more she delved into the ancient alien data, the more she realized just how deep the mystery ran. The truth about humanity's ability to survive the devastating energy pulses was far more complex and disturbing than she had ever imagined. The strange symbols, the encrypted files, and the fragments of ancient technology all pointed to one conclusion: humanity's survival wasn't an accident of evolution. It wasn't some lucky quirk of nature that had made Earth's inhabitants immune to the destructive pulses that had wiped out countless other species. No, Mara now knew that humanity had been deliberately engineered by a long-extinct alien race, a race whose name and origin had been erased from history. The purpose of this genetic manipulation was chilling. Humanity wasn't created to thrive on Earth or to flourish in the galaxy. They were designed as a weapon meant to defend against a far more terrifying force. This ancient species, in their wisdom or madness, had intended humanity to be the ultimate defense against a cosmic threat that even they could not defeat. But the aliens had vanished before their plan could come to fruition. In their absence, humanity was left as an unintended remnant, an entire species built for a purpose that no longer seemed relevant. Mara leaned back in her chair, staring at the screen as the realization began to sink in. If anyone else found out what she had uncovered, it could destroy everything. The Federation would see humanity not as an innocent species, but as a weapon, a potential tool in a galaxy-wide war that humanity could not comprehend. And the darker possibility loomed: what if some factions within the Federation wanted to weaponize humanity's genetic secret? What if they saw Earth as nothing more than a resource to be exploited? Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden, urgent alert on her console. It was a secure transmission from an anonymous source. She hesitated, uncertain of whether to open it. But her curiosity got the better of her. As the message popped up, a familiar face appeared: Rax, the military liaison from the Federation who had worked closely with her on the project. Dr. D'Angelo? Rax's voice was calm, too calm. "We need to talk. It's urgent." Mara's heart skipped a beat. She knew that Rax had always been a bit of a mystery to her, an enigmatic figure with ties to the military and the Federation's more shadowy operations. But what was more troubling was the growing sense of tension between them. Their once cordial working relationship had become strained over the past few weeks, especially after Mara's discoveries. There had been moments of subtle hostility, moments when Mara felt like Rax was watching her, waiting for her to make a move. "I think you know what I found," Mara said, her voice steady, though inside she was uneasy. "I do," Rax replied, "and I think it's time we had a more candid conversation about the implications of your research." The words hit Mara like a punch to the gut. She could sense where this was going, but she wasn't prepared for what came next. "I don't want to be the one to tell you this, but it's clear that the Federation isn't going to let this secret stay buried for long. There are factions within the Federation that have their own ideas about how humanity's immunity should be used. And those ideas aren't exactly peaceful." Mara's eyes widened in shock. "What are you saying?" Rax's expression remained unchanged. "I'm saying that some powerful people believe humanity should be weaponized. They see your research as the key to unlocking a new era of galactic dominance. But we can't let that happen. Not without considering the consequences." Mara shook her head in disbelief. This is madness. Humanity wasn't created to be a weapon. We're not some tool to be used by whoever has the power. I agree, Rax said quietly. But we both know that the galaxy doesn't always operate on ideals. And there are those who would use your discoveries to change the balance of power. You need to be careful, Mara. The Federation's eyes are on you. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Mara stunned. For a moment, she sat there, staring at the blank screen, her mind swirling with fear and confusion. What had just happened? Rax had been her ally, someone she had trusted. And now, it seemed, he was warning her of something far darker, something she wasn't yet ready to face. But before she could process everything, another message popped up, this one from an unfamiliar source. The name at the top of the screen was equally unfamiliar, Zethar. The message was simple, you are not alone in this. I have information you need. Zethar was a diplomatic envoy from an alien species Mara had never encountered before, an enigmatic race known for their secretive nature and vast knowledge of galactic politics. The message intrigued her. If Rax was warning her about the Federation, could Zethar be someone she could trust? She decided to respond. When the transmission was established, Zethar's face appeared on the screen. His features were alien, but there was a certain calmness to his demeanor that put Mara at ease, even though she couldn't fully understand why. You've uncovered something dangerous, Dr. D'Angelo, Zethar said, his voice low and measured. Humanity's immunity to the energy pulses is only part of a much greater puzzle. The pulse itself is not a natural phenomenon. It is part of a larger galactic war one that is already underway. Mara's brow furrowed. What do you mean? What war? The pulses are a signal, Zethar continued. A signal to call forth an ancient race of invaders, known as the Harbingers. They are coming to wipe out all life in the galaxy. They have the power to destroy entire star systems, and they have already begun. The immunity that humanity possesses is not a gift, but a curse. You were designed to fight them, but only at a terrible cost. Mara's mind raced. The stakes were higher than she had ever imagined. The galaxy wasn't just at risk because of humanity's potential misuse. It was at risk because a far greater threat was already on its way. But why me? Mara asked. Why are you telling me this? Zethar's eyes softened, almost with pity. Because you are the only one who can stop it. The Federation has no idea what is coming. They are preparing for a war they will lose. But you know the truth. The question is, will you help me stop the coming destruction? Mara's thoughts collided. Rax had been right about one thing. Her discoveries were far more dangerous than anyone had realized. It wasn't just about humanity surviving, it was about whether the galaxy itself could be saved from annihilation. The walls of the underground facility were thick with tension. Dr. Mara D'Angelo stood before the databanks, trying to process the enormity of what had been revealed to her. Zethar's words echoed in her mind. The Harbingers are coming. The very energy pulses that had once seemed like random cosmic phenomena were not just threats to humanity, they were signals calling the Harbingers to the galaxy. The Harbingers were a malevolent species, known only through scattered ancient texts and myths. These beings had once ruled the galaxy with an iron fist, harvesting life wherever they went. Their true power was in their ability to strip entire worlds of life energy, leaving them barren and lifeless. The energy pulses were not some cosmic accident, they were a beacon, a warning sign that the Harbinger's return was imminent. As Zethar explained, humanity's creation had never been a simple act of evolution or survival. The ancient alien race that had engineered humanity had done so with a singular purpose, to slow the Harbinger's inevitable return. The human genome had been modified to withstand the deadly pulses, to survive what no other species could endure. Humanity had been designed not to thrive but to fight, to be a weapon against an enemy they didn't even know existed. It wasn't just the creation of humans that was horrifying, it was the consequences. The Harbingers saw humans as an unpredictable variable in their grand design. Their survival of the pulses made them a threat. And now, with the beacon activated, the Harbingers were coming. They would see humanity as a target, a challenge to be eradicated in their conquest to harvest the galaxy. Mara felt the floor beneath her feet tremble. The ground wasn't shaking, but her world was shifting, crumbling into pieces. She had spent her entire life studying biology, convinced that humanity was just like any other species, vulnerable, frail, struggling to find its place in the galaxy. But the truth was something far darker, far more complex. Humanity had been created as a weapon. She had spent years studying alien life, convinced that humanity was an innocent species caught in the grand struggle of the universe. But now, Mara had to face a terrible truth. Humanity's role in the galaxy had never been one of innocence. They had been made to fight a battle they hadn't chosen, a war that had never been their own. And now, their very survival had made them a target. Her thoughts were interrupted by a loud crash. Rax burst into the room, his face flushed with anger. "We don't have time for this," he shouted. "The Federation is already preparing for the worst. We need to act now. Humanity has the power to survive these pulses. It's time to weaponize it, to use our immunity as a weapon against the Harbingers. It's our only chance." Mara's heart pounded in her chest. Rax had always been a military man, pragmatic, unyielding. But now, he was pushing for something that made her stomach turn. To weaponize humanity's immunity would mean embracing the very thing that had been built into them, humanity's role as a weapon in the war. It would mean using people as tools, as pawns in a galactic conflict they hadn't asked for. "I will never be a part of that," Mara said, her voice sharp. "We were created to fight, not to become weapons. I refuse to let humanity lose its soul for the sake of survival." Rax's eyes narrowed. "Then you're choosing to let us all die. The Harbingers won't care about our morality. They will kill us all, and they will move on to the next galaxy." Zethar stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "Rax, Mara is right. We have a choice to make. The question is not whether we survive, but how we survive. Do we give in to the cycle of destruction, or do we find another way?" But Rax was beyond reasoning. "The galaxy is at war. You can't think like that, Zethar. And you," he turned toward Mara, "you're just afraid. Afraid to face the truth. Humanity was created to survive this. And now it's time to fight. If you won't help me, I'll do it myself." With a sudden movement, Rex lunged toward the control panel, trying to override the system to send out the signal that would trigger humanity's adaptation to the Harbinger's energy pulses. It was a move that would escalate the conflict, turning humanity into the very weapon it had been created to be. Mara rushed forward, grabbing his arm. "Stop," she shouted, but Rax wasn't listening. He was driven, his mind set on one goal: survival by any means necessary. In the struggle, there was a sharp crack as Rax pulled free, knocking over a nearby console. The room was filled with a blinding light as the emergency shields activated. The tension had reached its breaking point. With one final desperate push, Rax sent the signal. A pulse of energy rippled through the facility, a shockwave that made the walls tremble. The light faded, leaving behind only a silence that rang louder than any explosion. Rax stood there, breathing heavily, his eyes wild with the belief that he had just saved humanity. But Mara saw it for what it was: a betrayal. She had once believed in Rax, in their partnership. But now, everything had changed. He had chosen the path of destruction, of violence, and he had dragged them all into it. "I couldn't stop him," Mara whispered, her voice trembling. Zethar stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "Rax made his choice. Now, we must make ours." But before Mara could respond, the facility's monitors flickered to life, showing an image of the stars, a map of the galaxy, pinpointing the coordinates of the Harbinger's approach. The time was almost upon them. They could no longer afford to wait. The galaxy was on the brink of war. But the question Mara now faced was not just about humanity's survival. It was about what kind of survival it would be. Would humanity become the weapon it was created to be, or could they find another path, one that didn't lead to moral corruption and destruction? Could she erase the power they had been given, or would the galaxy be doomed to repeat its violent history? Rax's death had left a gaping hole in Mara's heart. The betrayal was more than personal. It was a loss of everything she had believed in. The lines between right and wrong, good and evil, were no longer clear. But one thing was certain: the future of the galaxy rested on the choices she made in the coming days. And those choices would shape the fate of humanity itself. As the first Harbinger ships appeared on the horizon, Mara's heart sank. The war was beginning, and humanity's place in it was uncertain. The darkness of space loomed before Dr. Mara D'Angelo as she stood at the control console, her fingers trembling over the activation key. The fate of humanity, the galaxy, and everything she had fought for rested in her hands. The Harbingers were approaching, their fleet now only hours away. Mara had spent countless sleepless nights contemplating this moment. The question was never if she could stop the Harbingers, it was how. Her heart ached. Every instinct told her to protect humanity, to preserve the one thing that had given her hope for so long. But in the years she had spent learning the truth, one thing had become painfully clear: humanity had never been meant to survive this war. It had been created for one singular purpose: to destroy the last remaining obstacle to the galaxy's annihilation. Humanity had been a weapon, a tool for an ancient race that had long since disappeared. If Mara allowed humanity to keep its immunity, she would be feeding the cycle of violence, using them as pawns in a galactic war they didn't choose. The knowledge of their true purpose, manufactured to become soldiers in a war that wasn't their own, tore her apart. Her decision had come to this: humanity had to break free from the shackles of their engineered destiny. If humanity was ever to have a future, it had to be one they forged themselves, not one designed for them by others. Without hesitation, Mara activated the device. The ancient technology embedded deep in the human genome was destroyed. As the signal spread across the planet, a wave of energy swept through every human being, erasing their immunity to the energy pulses. Humanity's unique adaptation was gone. They were no longer the galaxy's weapon, no longer the ultimate defense against the Harbingers. But there was a cost. The moment she pressed the final key, Mara felt a sharp pain surge through her body. She knew the consequences. The destruction of the technology wouldn't just affect the humans, it would undo the genetic legacy that had been passed down for centuries. In a final act of defiance, she sacrificed herself to ensure humanity could never be the tool of destruction again. Her life force drained as the final pulse emitted from the device. Her body slumped forward, and her mind was flooded with the weight of the decision she had just made. There was no going back. As she faded, her last thoughts were not of victory, but of the future. Could humanity truly rebuild? Could they forge a new path without the stain of their past? Was the destruction of their purpose worth the unknown future ahead? The Harbingers arrived shortly after, their ships cutting through the fabric of space like harbingers of doom. But when they descended upon Earth, they found no shield, no defense. The pulse of energy they sent out to destroy humanity's immunity met only resistance in the form of weakened humans, unable to withstand the brutal assault of the Harbingers' energy weapons. The people of Earth, vulnerable and frail, had no choice but to retreat, to hide in whatever shelters they could find. For the first time in their existence, humanity was truly defenseless. And yet, as the invaders closed in, a strange thing happened. The Harbingers stopped. The great fleets, poised to annihilate Earth, hovered in the skies above, hesitating. Mara's sacrifice hadn't gone unnoticed. The energy pulses, which had once been the Harbingers' signature weapon, began to flicker and die. The Harbingers' ships grew still. Their commanders, previously locked in determination, now seemed uncertain. The attack, once inevitable, stalled. Then, in the silence that followed, the Harbingers spoke. Their voice was not what Mara expected. They did not speak with the cold malice of conquerors, but with the sorrow of protectors. The Harbingers revealed their true purpose. "We were sent," their leader's voice echoed, "to protect your kind. You were never meant to be the galaxy's weapon. You were created to destroy us, to prevent us from stopping the true enemy." The truth, so long buried, now came to light. The Harbingers were not invaders. They had been sent to stop the very creators of humanity, the ancient alien race that had designed Earth's inhabitants as tools of destruction. Their mission was not to conquer Earth, but to stop the catastrophic force that had created the humans for their own purposes. Humanity's creators had been the true enemy all along. They had engineered humanity to be the instrument of their own destruction, a weapon designed to eliminate the one species capable of stopping them. The Harbingers were the only thing standing between the galaxy and the complete annihilation of life. As they knew as the Harbingers spoke, Mara's death became even more significant. It was not just a choice to prevent humanity from becoming a weapon, it was a sacrifice that allowed humanity to break free from the cosmic role it had never chosen. It allowed them to reclaim their own future, to chart their own destiny, unshackled from the chains of their past. But as the truth sunk in, the weight of Mara's decision became more profound. The galaxy's history was twisted with lies. Humanity had been manipulated, shaped by forces beyond their control, their actions part of a larger plan they couldn't comprehend. They were born from the manipulation of others. But in the end, Mara's final act was one of defiance, a rejection of the role fate had assigned humanity. And yet, in that defiance, she had freed humanity to become something greater. The galaxy had not yet won. The Harbingers, now protectors, could not fully undo the damage caused by humanity's creation. The truth of their origins had left the galaxy scarred, the balance uncertain. The question that lingered, heavy and unresolved, was whether humanity could ever truly escape the legacy of their creation. What did survival mean when it was built on a lie? Could humanity ever be free from the chains of their own history, or would they forever be bound by the forces that had shaped them? Mara's sacrifice had given them a chance, but it was just the beginning. A new chapter would need to be written, one where humanity no longer played the role assigned to them by others. But the cost was steep. Survival was no longer just a matter of living. It was a matter of understanding the weight of their existence and what it meant to move forward. As the last of the Harbingers turned away, leaving humanity to rebuild, the galaxy stood on the edge of a new era. Mara's final words, whispered in the moments before her death, haunted the air. What is the true cost of survival? And in that question, humanity's future was born.